Hello, everyone. I've got little Miss Salsa right here. She just got finished eating and she wanted to come and be by her mommy. And Chalupa is next to me. Yep, there he is. So I'll probably put her down in just a moment, but she always wants to be by Mama, and so does Chalupa, and so they get into a squabble sometimes. Okay, baby girl. There you go. Okay. All right. Today we will be picking up on Ponzinomics, where we left off last time. This is where Salsa actually kind of took a bite out of the book. And I'm like, okay, I guess she just, wanted a little snack. But that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind sharing with you, sweetheart. I hope your day has been good so far. I have been just trying to rest a bit because my back has been bothering me, feeling like pins and needles all across it. So hence, of course, I'm always on my heating pad, and you get to see the ever sexy salon paws. I know it is just a thing, and you're going to want to wear them too. I know it's a trendsetter. I've got it. Not really. And what else is going on? Oh, it was my anniversary this week. Last Thursday was my anniversary, wedding anniversary. So that's some news if you hadn't heard about that. It was nice to see my husband and, chit chat and catch up and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's about where we are. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with Ponzinomics. If you do not have a copy of this book, there should be, I'll actually look up the link. I did not do this before I went live, and I should have, because this is in my Amazon shop. Anything that I have in my Amazon shop, it is something that I have bought and that I like. If I don't like something, if I find out I don't like it, I take it out of the shop, because I would not want to recommend anything to you guys that I don't actually like or use. Now, where is it? There it is. And that was Chalupa, because she grabbed the blanket and put it in her mouth. So here is, I'm putting this in the chat. There you go, in case you want to get the book. I do recommend that people have a copy of the book themselves, because if you're anything like me, you want to go and look things up. Okay, I do have the link in the video description as well. Just was checking on that in case I forgot. Oh, something else that I have going on, trying to get to my water, is I'm thinking about, I guess, rebooting the podcast I was doing. For a couple of years, that was called Hey Hun, You Woke Up, but I may end up calling it something else. And I'd like to know your opinions about me doing a podcast. What do you think about that? And I'm just trying to think of what I'd like it to be about. I'm kind of open right now, so if you have ideas, I'd love for you to share that with me. Oh, thank you, Insolent Violet, for saying that she's a cutie. I think so. Hello. So, Deb, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name correctly, and I apologize if I don't. I'm terrible with these names. And hey, Albs, how are you doing? And I'm going to have to get my plug probably, because I just noticed that my laptop has gone down a bit. So if it goes down further, I'll be plugging it in, and you guys will just have to, talk amongst yourselves. Talk about the book that we're reading together. All right, to get started. And there I have it. See, I've already started highlighting in it. Well, I did at least one of the times when I read it. Okay. We are starting with Dreams and Schemes, Journey to MLM. And this part is called Dreams of Gold. So you guys can see that. In 1913, at 26, a rather mature age for a young man in that era, Carl Rodenberg left his parents and the family business in South Carolina to travel by train to Seattle, Washington. His final destination, Alaska, where deep veins of gold were said to be awaiting Intrepid and determined prospects. Rodenberg's hope-filled journey was part of what historians have called one of the largest voluntary migrations in history at that time. News spread widely about discoveries in Alaska, which became a U.S. territory in 1867. More than 100,000 wealth seekers flocked to Alaska and Klondike in Canada's Yukon. Fewer than 4,000 prospectors found any gold, and even fewer actually became rich. The famed Alaska Gold Rush was one of America's legendary get-rich chapters in the league with an earlier California gold discovery and followed by booms in Florida real estate and the ballooning stock market in the 1920s. Writer Jack London is the most famous adventurer who searched for Alaska gold. He did find gold of a sort and wrote popular novels, including Call of the Wild, based on his experiences. According to the Neutralite story, Carl Rodenberg was inspired by London's quest and took the same voyage 16 years later. Upon arriving in Seattle, Rodenberg quickly learned that while the gold in Alaska was real, the widely held belief in the opportunity for wealth, the very motivation for his trip, was false. The boom over, he was too late. The boom was over. The boom over, he was too late. Sorry about that. Prospectors were no longer striking it rich, but rather were working like slaves for mere ounces of the metal. Some, like Rodenberg, abandoned the venture quickly, while others stayed and moved from place to place as news broke of yet another strike. As is now widely known, the real money in this and other gold rushes was not the gold itself, but in selling to gold seekers, supplies, tools, transportation, anything that fed their hopes. Rodenberg's ill-fated trip was a typical folly, yet perhaps, like the ventures of many others, his journey did lead to other unexpected discoveries. Rodenberg learned of another wealth opportunity in Seattle, but not in gold, but in commerce, in the newly opened and still mysterious China. He made plans to go there after returning to the East Coast where he could gather the means. Carl Rodenberg's decision to travel to China in search of business opportunity, like the plan to discover gold in Alaska, was in no way original for the time, but part of a large-scale movement. Only a little more than a decade before, the United States government had aggressively announced to the world that it intended to enforce an open-door trade policy towards China. Europe, Japan, and Russia had all signaled intentions to seize land and control lucrative markets inside the vast country. England had forcibly opened markets during the so-called Opium Wars. The whole world was eyeing China for new wealth, and Carl Rodenberg, like many others, caught the get-rich spirit. In the U.S., as the American frontier was closing, natural resources were already exploited, and trusts started taking over vast areas of commerce. The prospect of sales opportunities in China revived the spirit ever expanding capitalism, not unlike a later era of open door that began for American business in China in 1978. While Rodenberg was too late for gold in the Pacific Northwest, his timing in China was better. What is it, Salsa? She's pawing at me. Of the tens of thousands of men and women who headed west in search of the fabled gold opportunity, many were impelled strongly by frustration, personal failures, and a general sense of receding opportunities in the eastern U.S. Rodenberg was no exception. His work life began in the employ of his parents, who sold handmade souvenir jewelry and paintings to the wealthy in Gilded Age vacation sites along the East Coast, such as No, ma'am. That is not for you. Sorry. She's trying to get to something. Hey, Louisiana Swamp, how are you doing? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I can't give you anything to chew on. Oh, yes, I can. You've already taken the stuffing out of, okay, one of the little face masks I got. She's already taken like the backing out of it. So I'm just going to give that to her. And hopefully she'll be like, fine with that. Now, Chalupa, that's what I thought. Chalupa might start barking and having a fit if she has something. It's okay, Chalupa. It's okay. You're right here by Mama. You're by Mama. You're good. You're good. You're good. Okay. Now, where was I? Okay. Let me start here because I know I was about around here. Okay. His work life began in the employ of his parents, who sold handmade souvenir jewelry and paintings to the wealthy in Gilded Age vacation sites along the East Coast, such as St. Augustine, Florida, and the golfing center of Pinehurst, North Carolina. There, his biography informs young Carl met people he viewed as America's highest and best. He adopted them as role models, including the DuPonts and Morgans and Mellons. Like the iconic character Jay Gatsby in F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel, Rosenberg reportedly was inventing a dashing personality and writing down what he viewed as rules for self improvement, addressing his own diary as if to an alter ego as old book when he made entries. His rules, as his son noted admiringly in the biography, were aimed at impressing others, rising in status, and attracting women. Do you have a ton of face masks that you don't use? I sleep with them on. I really like it because then it blocks out everything. So I have a bunch too, but I like the cute ones now. I have some just regular ones, but I saw the cat ones. I just had to have them. I showed those in one of my Amazon hauls. Rosenberg's job was in sales and marketing of his parents' handmade crafts. Yet, he stated in his journal, business has been so poor for 2 years, and I have been so little of a man that Dad and I amicably concluded that I would reap benefit from working for someone else. Rosenberg's first real job outside the family's business lasted only a few weeks. He was reportedly fired for being unable to motivate the factory workers he was supposed to be supervising. He went back to work for his father. In a short time, though, he was sent off to New York under parental patronage to attend a jewelry design school, but, according to his biographer, he harbored a deeper interest in becoming an actor. That's interesting, isn't it? Because, when we see these, even the CEOs and the higher ups in business opportunities, isn't there a bit of acting going on? And for those of you who have been following, the On Passive journey, haven't you kind of noticed that there is acting going on? Or have you noticed that? Is it just me? Because I feel like I have seen that. Let me know if you have too. Okay, I already read that. Blah, 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 blah. Rosenberg lasted less than a year in jewelry design. Now that sounds like fun to learn jewelry design. Because I've designed, like on my own, like some earrings. I had fun doing that. I'd like to get back into that sometime. Haven't done it yet, obviously. He did not leave to pursue an acting career, but instead launched into another profession as inventor. His first invention developed with an unnamed partner as described as a revolutionary flooring material made out of melted rubber, sawdust, and other special ingredients. It was fireproof. It was waterproof. People told him it was good, a surefire success. Rosenberg envisioned covering the floors of the world. Unfortunately, at the first installation revealed the product had a serious flaw. It cracked. The project was abandoned. Returning home to his father, who was now a widower and living in Camden, South Carolina, The young Rodenberg enrolled at the University of South Carolina in the fall. He was now 26. By the next spring, he quit school. It was his final encounter with formal education of any kind. It was at this point, 1913, when Rodenberg set off from South Carolina to Seattle seeking gold, which eventually led to his new plan to go to China and pursue mystic business opportunities. He was consumed, his filial biographer wrote, with a belief that his destiny is to blaze new trails. Jeez, I need to put my water somewhere. Hang on just a second because I don't want this to like spill over anywhere. Yeah, they act all the time. They act happy when they're disappointed. They hype to Mount Everest and do it with a smile. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that takes some sort of talent to consistently hype something up when you may not really feel it per se, I mean, that's something that I would not be able to do at all. I think probably the worst job I ever had, the one that like bothered me the most, I worked for a company and it was collections of sorts. This was, many years ago. And it was for people who were living in mobile homes. So I was supposed to call them and get them to, pay up because they were behind. And I could not take that, and it's like, whatever sob story they had, I was just like, oh, well, you poor thing. I was not cut out to deal with that. I could not just act my way through that. And I really don't see how anybody can do that. That it stressed me out so much. And finally, to a point where my boyfriend was like, you've got to quit. I was like coming home in tears every single day because it just bothered me. I felt like people were were being made to try to pay for something that they couldn't afford. And I'm sure a lot of people were telling lies, but it just made me so uncomfortable that it was not a job for me. All right, moving on. You did collections too? Yeah, soul destroying. Yes. That is not the I can't do that. I'm not going to be someone that's going to keep badgering someone to pay something. That's just not in my character to do that. After dropping out of college, Rodenberg secured an accounting job at an American oil company in the burgeoning new petroleum industry. But I do believe you need to pay for whatever it is that you got. Like, I don't believe in people just walking away from their financial obligations. That I do have a problem with. And I've always made sure that I've, paid for mine, even if I haven't been able to pay as much as I would like, That's why I didn't continue in the legal profession. I've thought about going into the legal profession, like if I could like reset my life, like maybe I could have done that, but I don't know if I would have been able to do it because of the fact that I would have to probably hear people that are lying to me. And then I would have to like lie in front of other people. I don't know if I could, no. I mean, researching stuff, yeah, I can do that all the live long, but the whole lying thing, no, I'm not going to be able to just stand up there and just lie about stuff. Knowingly lie. If I lied about something in front of people, like, let's just even say this water, and I didn't know I was telling a lie, then I would apologize for the fact that I didn't know at the time that what I was saying was not truthful. Anyway, back to this. Hey, Martina, how are you doing, sweetie? At this time, the U.S. was the world's largest oil producer and an aggressive exporter. Rodenberg's job in China involved tracking inventory of barrels of oil being sold and delivered to local Chinese distributors. Rodenberg started to learn Mandarin and lived with other company employees in luxury, where Chinese house servants called boys waited on them. Within his first year in China, Rodenberg was fired for trying to tell top management what they should do. However, he already had plans for an independent venture in China as an agent with import-export company. Romberg also planned to marry a woman whom he met while in jewelry design school in New York. She came from a wealthy family in Boston. In 1917, while America was entering World War I, Romberg's fiancée sailed to China and they married. The horror of war engulfing the globe did not touch Romberg directly, but its geopolitical aftermath would eventually end his China venture. According to his biography, while working in imports exports, Romberg was making keen observations about the health and diet of Chinese people. Less than a year into this new role as an independent agent for the import export company, Romberg's wife became pregnant. The couple moved back to America, where Romberg was able to arrange a stateside position with the company working on shipments out of Guadalajara, Mexico. There he arranged exports of cow leather to China, where it was made into shoes. After the first trip to Mexico, while en route back to Boston, Romberg turned down an offer to work in Boston, where his wife's affluent family resided, and he abruptly quit the company. Instead, he decided to pursue work with another company in Beaumont, Texas. Beaumont is not that far from the Houston area, in the shipping industry. Due to the war, shipping resources were in short supply, which Romberg believed presented a unique profit opportunity. However, he soon learned the company was unorganized and failing. Nevertheless, Romberg managed to persuade his wife over strenuous objections to move to Beaumont. As the business moved towards total collapse, Romberg joined in yet another large-scale and historic event of the time. Along with millions of others, he contracted Spanish influenza. During this health crisis, Karl Romberg formulated a new career plan, another invention of sorts in its originality. Recalling the absence of milk in Chinese diet, he thought he could improve China's national health by selling them canned evaporated milk, which required no refrigeration. It would provide the country with nutrients that he believed the Chinese did not realize they were lacking in their diets, despite thousands of years of advanced culture. The plan led to successfully persuading the Carnation Milk Company to hire him as the first agent to establish exports of carnation milk to China. At 30 years old, Romberg planned to move back to China with his wife and infant. The Carnation Milk Company developed into a large international enterprise partly from value and utility, but also from the owner's wily marketing skills. Canned evaporated milk could be stored indefinitely on store shelves. At a time when many households did not have refrigerators or even ice boxes, its decline in popularity followed rapidly as refrigeration became more common in households. But sales and marketing were also based on a contrived brand appeal. The company's name, Carnation, for example, seemed to conjure nature, freshness, and beauty in a product that was actually processed, boiled, and canned with added sugar. The health inspiring name was taken not from nature but from a brand of cigars. Carnation developed breeding and feeding processes for its cows that forced them to increase lactation. About a decade before Rodenberg joined the company, Carnation coined the term milk from contented cows. Soon, Carnation's milk cans were on store shelves coast to coast, and Carnation was just beginning its export business. Romberg's timing was excellent, but as he would soon discover after returning to China, the reminiscent of his revolutionary flooring there was one big problem with the plan. Romberg gathered his wife and baby for a new mission to introduce cow's milk into the diet of the world's most populous nation. Though China has an ancient culture, he perceived that it had never discovered the nutritional importance of cow's milk. Upon arrival in Shanghai, Romberg observed a country where most people had never seen a cow. So many in real need, little children with bellies distended from starvation, women weak and pale from pregnancy, rickshaw pullers with scaly sores of pellagra. Romberg believed he would deliver the relief the Chinese did not realize they needed. Despite his previous experience in China and some familiarity with Mandarin, and despite his recognition that everywhere in China, the interest in food was linked to the interest in nutrition, Romberg was forced to admit his plan to save China's health with canned milk had a major weakness. Millions of Chinese became ill from consuming milk due to genetic disposition to lactose intolerance. His biography reports he was finding that many Chinese just didn't seem to like the taste of milk. It often made them sick and it was expensive. It was beginning to seem like there was simply no way to create a mass market for milk in China. Thus ended the Carnation Milk Crusade and Romberg's income. With a second child on the way, Romberg took his family back to America, yet again, where he sought new product lines and money for his latest planned venture. The anchor product he soon landed was toothpaste. He would offer Colgate toothpaste to China. If he couldn't save Chinese teeth with carnation milk, maybe he could at least help keep them clean with Colgate toothpaste, his biography note reports. For the capital to start his new independent distribution company, Romberg had just one investor from his wife's family, who provided about $35,000 in current dollars. With toothpaste as its main line, Romberg's distribution business thrived, dubbing him a tycoon. Yet referring to Romberg's future in the health food supplement field, the biography ominously notes that back in the U.S., the Federal Trade Commission posed a future threat and started reporting that an increased number of Americans are annually robbed of hundreds of millions of dollars through fraudulent medical advertisements. In China, there was a far greater danger to Romberg's agenda: violent resentment against foreign businesses. Chinese rioters and warlords wiped out one of his agencies. The attitude of the Chinese people changed dramatically from the days when Romberg first arrived and lived in luxury with Chinese boys waiting on him and his family. The new mood threatened tycoons, the export business model, and profit margins. Turmoil in China in the late 1920s led to a civil war, drove out Japanese occupation forces, expelled Western companies, and eventually led to today's unified China under a single political party. Unrecorded in history books, it also ended Karl Romberg's toothpaste business. The toothpaste debacle, preceded by a misguided plan to sell canned milk in China, and an interim shipping business folly, an ill-timed move to Beaumont, Texas, according to his biographer, led to the end of Romberg's marriage and a separation from his children. But even the dissolution of his family and the encroaching chaos in China did not deter him. His wife returned to Boston with the children, but Romberg stayed in China until total loss occurred, leaving him without the means even to get out. In 1927, destitute and with unpaid creditors and unaccounted inventory, Romberg was only able to get back to the U.S. on the generosity of others who provided his fare. Now we're on to California vitamin dreams. Break for water. California vitamin dreams. The next chapter of Romberg's odyssey remained true to the course. Having lost his family as a cost of his China dream quest, he joined the latest mania back in the U.S. at the time: vitamin pills. As when he followed Jack London's path to Alaska for gold, Rosenberg gravitated to where countless other wealth seekers were already congregating in Southern California. Meanwhile, Rosenberg formally lost custody of his children in the divorce, but never saw the custody papers when they were delivered. He was already immersed in his newest venture at another address. Rosenberg's newfound obsession was producing and selling vitamin pills in the late 1920s to the mid 1930s, especially in California, was part of an accelerating trend that attracted many believers and opportunists. Well before Rosenberg filled his first pills with processed alfalfa, a large industry with outrageous false medical claims was quickly forming. In 1912, a decade and a half before Rosenberg's exodus from China, Casimir Funk, a Polish scientist working in London, coined the term vitamines to describe the newly discovered elements of rice that were vital to the preventing beriberi disease. Over the next few years, university and corporate researchers began to isolate and identify more of these hidden nutritional components and the relationship to disorders such as rickets and pellagra that had plagued the world wherever a severe food deficiency occurred. In short order, leveraged by the enormous power and authority of science, these minuscule food elements were hyper commercialized by non scientists as miracle discoveries that could now be extracted and made available in pill form for a price. Though scientists had shown that the abnormal absence of these nutritional elements could lead to disease, the commercial promoters distorted these discoveries into claims that adding them to a normal diet could ward off illness and even cure diseases. A little more than a decade after the discovery of vitamins were already advertised in the pages of Saturday Evening Post. The bombastic health claims and public mania sparked by these discoveries reinvigorated and vastly expanded the fragmented but well-defined earlier industry of medicine show doctors, mail-order nostrums, and other patent medicines that had operated robustly in America for several decades. The American medical show remedies were mostly useless, if not harmful, and often based on morphine or alcohol. Many of the traveling doctors claimed their secret remedies were based on Native American wisdom or some exotic, distant, or esoteric body of knowledge, unknown or even nefariously suppressed by the conventional medical community. With its supposed authority of science and supposed traditional wisdom recovered from the ancient past or far distant peoples, including China, the vitamin craze would grow vastly larger than its predecessor, the patent medicine field. One of the earliest of the vitamin pill promoters was Forrest C. Shackley, who quickly recognized the financial potential in vitamins and other herbal remedies. Are you guys familiar with Shackley, the MLM called Shackley? Well, there we go. There's like the beginnings of it right there. He sold pills containing plant materials as early as 1915 door to door. In 1931, 5 years before Rosenberg registered his own company, Shackley was manufacturing and selling pills filled with alfalfa plant matter in Oakland, California. Shackley was well prepared for his pioneering role in selling vitamins with unproven and misleading health claims. In his youth, he traveled with a medicine show as a strongman performer lifting huge weights that were actually hollow. Concurrent with Vitamania that began to grip the country were barely heard caveats from actual medical doctors and food scientists, warning that vitamins in pill form were not needed by people with normal American diets. Doctors and scientists also noted there was no verifiable evidence that vitamins distilled from actual food or synthetically manufactured, then ingested as discrete separate elements in pill form, actually improved health at all or functioned as they did in nature within actual food. Furthermore, it was not known if ingesting hyperdoses of the distilled or manufactured vitamins caused physical harm. The newly formed American Medical Association, AMA, which previously fought alcohol and other drug laced nostrums hawked by itinerant doctors and professors, now battled the far more aggressive and widely spread pseudoscientific claims of vitamins, calling them a novel form of quackery. Absence of evidence for the need of vitamins where a normal diet is available, lack of any verification of health benefits, and questionable ingredients remain the status quo of the vitamin industry to this day. But none of these conditions slowed the frenzied sales of vitamins and supplements, nor resulted in any significant regulation against the onslaught of false claims or led to any requirements, even for proof of ingredients. As marketable goods, vitamins and other food supplements operate outside normal market forces. With unverified ingredients, each product in the vitamin and supplement field can be claimed unique, thus preventing price comparisons and making tests of efficiency possible. Testimonials from alleged users, some contrived, others merely imagined, replaced evidence. Placebo effects reported by those healed serve as cause and effect proof and discredit the voices of all others who report no results. Extraordinary marketing claims by vitamin producers and sellers about, come here, baby. Salsa wants to get back up over here. There's not much room for you, honey. Okay, let me see if Shackley. Yeah, it was big in Utah. Let me see if I can make room for her. Come here, baby. Salsa, you want to come here? No, you want me to play with you as I'm reading. Okay, trying to make room for her so she could be in my lap, but now she doesn't want to have anything to do with that. Okay. I'm not sure where I was. Okay, I'm going to start here. As marketable goods, vitamins and other food supplements operate outside normal market forces. With unverified ingredients, each product in the vitamin and supplement field can be claimed unique, thus preventing price comparisons and making tests of efficacy impossible. Testimonials from alleged users, some contrived, others merely imagined, replaced evidence. Placebo effects reported by those healed serve as cause and effect proof and discredit the voices of all others who report no results. Extraordinary marketing claims by vitamin producers and sellers about restored health, prolonged youth, instant vitality, enhanced beauty, and proven bulwarks against diseases can command exorbitant prices charged to the truly sick, as well as the far more numerous, fearful, and uninformed people. Over the next 4 years, while working full-time once again as an accountant for an oil company, Romberg returned to his earlier off-hours role as inventor. Okay, Salsa got into my lap, so there she is playing with me, but you guys can't see her. You probably saw her like scoot across me. Over the next 4 years, while working for a full-time once again as an accountant for an oil company, Romberg returned to his earlier off hours as inventor. Sorry, I just reread that. Now he was packaging plant nutrition's process into a supplement that supplied elixirs of health, just as Shackley and others were doing. He built a laboratory of sorts in his home kitchen, eventually focusing on alfalfa as his base nutrient. During this time, Romberg remarried. His new wife's full-time job supported his experiments and allowed him to quit his own job. In early 1936, they had a child together. Testimony to the explosive commercial value of vitamins is demonstrated in Romberg's and other early promoters' initial experiences of finding interested inventors. With virtually no revenue, no scientific proof, and no relevant academic training, Roenberg's newly formed California Vitamin Company was able to attract various people willing to offer some funding for a stake in the fledgling enterprise. Roenberg was in booming California concocting a product with widely promoted scientific pretensions for curing and preventing age old diseases. Even more important, when they found buyers for their pills and potions, the price Roenberg and others were able to charge showed the emerging field held electrifying profit potential. In the same year, his third child was born. Roenberg attracted the first of several financial backers. Their modest investments covered his basic costs, enabling him to bring to market the product he labeled Vitasol. Like all such products, its ingredients were not fully disclosed or even tested for any health benefits or potential harmfulness. Roenberg had no evidence that the product provided any practical health value at all, yet Roenberg was wildly excited and sure it would eventually be a $1 million business. The exact price for Vitasol is not reported, except that it was equivalent to a half day's wages. Roenberg soon added Vitafil to a product line, converted Vitasol from liquid to pill form, and developed a new skin cream. Yet, with all the growing products, sales languished and debts rose. He was forced to move his family into a small room behind his laboratory. Exactly, lotions and potions. Yep. Eventually, a more promising investor, R. Templeton Smith, arrived. Smith bought out the interests of Roenberg's other small investors, who were mostly friends and sympathizers, but then withdrew in just a few months. Roenberg's bank account balance dropped to less than $10. Then another investor appeared, this time a local woman described as strong-willed and gruff, who wore slacks and was rather mannish. Layla Calcote. Calcote? Oh, that's what I'm going to say. Was a widow with a small real estate empire. The biography reports her primary interest in Roenberg's vitamin was whether there was any connection between vitamin and mineral rations and sexual desire. The pair formed a separate, jointly owned company dedicated to sales and marketing. They attracted a similar cadre of salespeople, and Roenberg's new identity, along with more aggressive product claims, began to emerge. In a local newspaper story, the contents of Roenberg's concoctions were revealed only as fruit and many types of green materials such as alfalfa, and unclassified factors such as auxins, chlorophyll, and others. The process of transforming the products into remedies was a trade secret. Roenberg was quoted as claiming his products would alleviate anything that isn't an infection. Roenberg told the reporter that his laboratory, where he processed the nutrients to concentrate their curative powers, functioned just like a human stomach. Simultaneously, in 1938, the U.S. Food and Drug and Cosmetics Act passed, prohibiting false or misleading statements about products related to health and nutrition. Then, in a seeming replay of when Roenberg's first wife left him and took the children, his current wife of 6 years, who supported him financially and manually, also abruptly left with their 2-year-old son. Roenberg responded like he had before by doubling down in his work. He began delivering talks to local groups and now portrayed his time in China, when he counted oil barrels, promoted evaporated milk, and sold toothpaste as a period of active research on the relations of vitamins and minerals to health, happiness, and beauty. The new claim that Roenberg had been in China primarily to conduct nutrition research tapped the biography notes into a growing fascination and sympathy with things Chinese in American popular culture, including movie characters Dr. Fu Manchu and Charlie Chan. These fictional characters added adventure and intrigue to Roenberg's somewhat fictionalized biography and presentations. Along with this newly constructed history, Roenberg's credentials were also upgraded. In one newspaper account of Roenberg's presentation, he was identified as a recognized authority without naming who did the recognizing. Does this all sound, somewhat familiar, kind of like with, Ash and on passive? Do you see kind of like how they all do the same sort of thing? And this is the very beginning of all of this, long before Ash was even a glimmer in his parents' eyes, and before many other people who have started business opportunities long before they walked this planet. Despite the embellished credentials, romanticized backstory, and pop culture interest in all things Chinese, sales did not grow significantly. Products from Roenberg's laboratory, however, continued to adapt. In the shadow of new federal oversight, Roenberg began including synthetic vitamin material into his natural concoctions. To broaden the customer base, he introduced children's candy infused with synthetic vitamin materials at $13 a jar in today's currency. He offered products said to be valued according to potency. They were classified as maintenance standard, high B, and special, and priced respectively from about $40 to more than $200 for a month's supply in today's dollars. Meanwhile, Roenberg searched for a sales manager. His business was still not suitable, and his production remained primitive. In 1939, the operation was described in the biography as a shell with no contents, no assets, and no liabilities. Equipment consisted of 2 picnic tables with attached benches and a big milk can of about 10 or 20 gallons, a galvanized milk can, and a steel slab about a foot long or maybe a little longer and about an inch or inch and a half deep with 31 holes in it. Sales management candidates came and went without success until one person whom Roenberg believed could fulfill his vision arrived. A merchandising consultant personally recommended the new sales manager. It was at this time of high hopes for sales that Roenberg adopted the Nutrilite brand name, replacing the old title California Vitamins. Along with adoption of a fresh company name and a corporate charter, the new sales manager recommended that Roenberg undertake a makeover and secure money for a major expansion. He convinced Roenberg's current investor, Calcote, to make an infusion of $35,000 in today's currency. Nutrilite moved to spacious new quarters in Los Angeles, and the product line included 10 other branded goods, among them a laxative and 2 skin creams. However, the biography reports one sour note. Roenberg was not quite current on rent. He owed on the former facility, and he left on short notice. He did not even notify his one part-time local worker. Wow, what a peach. The new sales manager, whom Calcutt funded with thousands of dollars, lasted less than 6 months. He was plotting a takeover which emulated the enterprise's dodgy but profitable marketing potential. Constructed of speculative but scientific sounding justifications, extraordinary medical claims, unfounded and later determined also to be illegal, exorbitant pricing, and a concocted history of exotic research, Roenberg's Nutrilite operation attracted a certain type of person. Its provocative, if untrue, marketing lures overshadowed the negative factors of unproven value, primitive facilities, and meager revenue. The ejection of the new sales manager led to reverting the newly formed Neutralite Corporation to only a legal partnership status with his financial backer. Soon, Rosenberg's only partner, Calcote, was a sole associate in Rosenberg's business and its only financial backer. A short while later, after his wife's departure and the discovery of the sales manager takeover plot, Rosenberg and Calcutt drifted into a relationship. How do you drift into a relationship? But okay. During this time, Rosenberg sued to gain custody of his son. With his divorce finalized, Rosenberg and Calcutt married in Las Vegas, purchased a 3.6-acre alfalfa farm, and enrolled his son into a private boarding school. An accidental fire destroyed the company's inventory and laboratory equipment. Accidental, Rosenberg had not purchased fire insurance, but with Calcutte's resources, production was fully and quickly restored. The position of sales leader remained open. Shortly after the fire and restoration, and less 2 years after the wedding, the marriage between the business partners came apart. With the divorce, Neutralite's financial backing also ended. Rosenberg and his son moved into a single room near the plant, and Calcutt returned to real estate investing. Apart from references to her in the Rosenberg biography, no other entries are to be found in current Google search for Layla H. Calcutt. In 1945, 1 year after dissolution of Rosenberg's third marriage and loss of financial support, the bleak status of Neutralite was clear. 33 years since his ill-fated quest for gold in Alaska, and a quarter century after his failed mission to bring canned milk to lactose-intolerant China, Rosenberg, now 60, was far from fulfilling his latest dream of selling vitamins to Americans on a scale grand enough to make him rich and famous. Yet Rosenberg's quest would soon take him to a new business he could not even imagine. It had not yet been invented. Greater than anything he'd attempted before, this new business would claim to be the greatest income opportunity in the world. Next up, pseudo-truth. Pseudo-truth. The stark business picture of Neutralite might be the ordinary and expected fate of a startup vitamin company a few decades earlier. But by this date, in booming Southern California, and after vitamin mania made such headway into American culture, it cannot be attributed only to market conditions or public awareness. This period, the years Rosenberg returned from China and into the mid-1940s, is described by health writer Catherine Price as arguably the most exciting time vitamins had ever known. By the end of World War II, the vitamin and supplement market was broadly established and ubiquitously promoted. Vitamins made by the Watkins Company, a marketer of various health remedies, were supplied to U.S. soldiers during the war. Miles Laboratories, now part of Bayer, introduced the one-a-day brand in the early 1940s that was offered in retail stores nationwide. Ads for vitamins were in all major newspapers and magazines. Vitamins were even sold door to door, as Forrest C. Shackley, later founder of the Shackley Corporation, had done decades before. As Catherine Price's history and analysis argues, the mania for vitamins in Rosenberg's time and today is largely a result of advertising, public relations, marketing, and salesmanship. What scientists had discovered, advertisers and marketers remade into their own image, creating a mythic commodity that barely resembled the nutritional component of the laboratory. Commercially promoted vitamins and supplements offered as pills, tablets, and liquids are arguably the perfect product for advertising, unsurpassed and suitably for what anthropologist Jules Henry called advertising pseudo-truth and pecuniary logic. Pseudo-truth in advertising, Henry wrote, is a false statement made as if it were true, but not intended to be believed literally. No proof is offered nor required. Proof is that it sells merchandise. If it does not, it is false. Informing people that the normal diet of the times made taking vitamin supplements unnecessary became false because it does not boost sales. Stating that vitamin pills provide energy, which is impossible as they contain no calories, and boost immunity, for which there was no evidence, became pseudo-truth because it does lead to sales. Pecuniary logic, Jules Henry explained, employs pseudo-truths to prove something that is not true or real for commercial purposes, thus giving children vitamin pills once a day to ward off devastating diseases that are unrelated to diet becomes perfectly logical and reasonable to millions of people. As Henry explained, people not in the habit of critical thinking commonly use pseudo-logic in everyday life. For the general public, the facts about vitamins are either unknown or misunderstood, or in their absence, vitamins are treated as invisible and near mystical life forces. Millions of people who take them daily do not know the difference between a vitamin and a mineral. Their value, when taken in pill form for people with normal diets in America, is a matter of faith, not evidence. The spikes and dips in popularity of certain vitamins over others, such as C or E, correspond to fads and marketing hype, as are sudden surges in sales of various foods that are said to contain certain vitamins. Vitamin pills are obviously in great demand by the public, that also does not demand quality control over them, even as they put them in their mouths. There is no public outcry for proof of the ingredients listed on the packaging, or any call for hard evidence of value and efficacy for health purposes. If claims of vitamins' capacity to cure diseases such as the common cold are not accepted by nearly everyone, then belief that they may prevent the cold is held by the others. Though repeated valid studies consistently show neither claim is true. Such has been the effect and the power of advertising in shaping the public mind around vitamins. Though vitamins are associated with food and medicine, unlike actual foods or actual medicinal products, the vitamin supplements are exempt from governmental oversight. Quality control and the matching of ingredients with label descriptions are only self regulated by the commercial promoters themselves. No government action occurs at all until the vitamin products are already on the market, and then only if the products are actually causing harm. The creative advertiser is, therefore, largely free to cite scientific findings inaccurately and inappropriately without fear of correction, and to make claims that are worded as to be believed, even if literally untrue. The only restrictions against direct and explicit claims to cure or prevent diseases which any creative copywriter can easily circumvent. With widespread public acceptance of the pseudo facts about vitamins presented in bombastic and circuitous verbiage that Jules Henry called parapoetic hyperbole, the advertiser can elegantly construct a nearly impenetrable logic for purchasing vitamins for daily consumption. Merchandisers can demand and obtain exorbitant prices that cannot be evaluated for fairness or validity. When Romberg was forming Nutrilite, the vitamin was arguably the hottest and most commercialized new technology of that period. Vitamin advertising and promotions not only led millions of people to believe they needed to buy and ingest them, but also to change what foods they ate on a daily basis. Many types of food which had been processed, preserved, colored, and stripped of virtually all nutritional value after being invisibly infused with synthetic vitamins were magically converted by advertising into healthy and fortified. The enriched foods, including some items that were unhealthy even before processing, were transformed into good for you with an advertised claim that they contained synthetic vitamins. And synthetic is in parentheses. Roomberg kept up with the movement, selling vitamin-laced candy and even dispensing a vitamin product called Old Settler in bars to be ingested with alcoholic drinks. The Schlitz Brewing Company in Milwaukee, for example, the nation's largest of that era, launched Schlitz Sunshine Vitamin D beer in 1936, informing the reader, beer is good for you, but Schlitz with Sunshine Vitamin D is extra good for you. The American Medical Association ruefully characterized this period as a gold rush. Between 1931 and 1939, when Roenberg launched California Vitamin Company, the market for vitamin sales had already grown from 12 million to about 83 million a year. By 1943, about the time Roenberg and Calcutt were married, vitamin sales had grown to 180 million, 2.5 billion in today's dollars, with 1 out of every 4 Americans already taking vitamin pills. Yet, Nutrilite had been unable to significantly grow or geographically expand beyond the Los Angeles area. In Roenberg's latest pursuit of wealth and fame in the California vitamin venture, the market conditions were nearly perfect, as was his timing. Situated in the epicenter of the market, he personally devoted himself to his work to such an extreme that 3 wives left him. Yet, as of August 1945, the company's total gross revenue was just a few $1,000s per month, which had to cover his facilities, all manufacturing costs, supplies and raw materials, salaries, and sales commissions. In the midst of vitamin sales gold rush, Nutrilite was a vitamin still looking for a customer. Pseudo-truth catapulted the invisible and barely understood vitamin into a massive new market. It was insufficient for Nutrilite, but it would provide a bridge to a much grander scale of deception in Nutrilite's impending future. Subtleties will soon be replaced by what became known as the big lie, and associated infamously at the time with dichotomical propaganda. As Nutrilite morphs into multi-level marketing, it will pioneer a distinctly American version of the big lie, not a government order, but a business opportunity. Delivered not sternly but with a beaming smile, it will promise wealth beyond imagination. Next up, sales personality. Hopefully you saw that. The primary channel of distribution for vitamins in that era, as it is today, was conventional retail. By the end of World War II, retail selling had vastly expanded as nationally advertised brands made coast-to-coast distribution of health-related products feasible and profitable. Internet sales of medical nostrums were replaced by branded medicines and over-the-counter remedies advertised in national magazines and newspapers. Advertising usurped the power of the salesperson to drive buyer preferences. Fictional advertising characters such as Betty Crocker and Aunt Jemima became folkloric figures, along with meaningless but evocative phrases like Carnation's contented cows, catchy tunes, and stylized images that psychologically targeted specific groups. Roenberg had tried virtually every type of sales and distribution model, included direct selling, retail stores, even bars, but his brand Nutrilite was almost totally unknown, and he had no revenue for a significant advertising campaign. He was competing with a growing number of national retail brands on store shelves at a much lower price. His channel of distributors consisted of only a few dozen individuals, all of them local. Personally, he recognized that he lacked expertise or even aptitude for sales. In 1940, searching for revenue growth and with Leila Colte's financial backing, Romberg had hired an advertising consultant who advised an ad campaign in the Los Angeles Times to increase distributors. It produced no results. The consultant then advised Romberg to enroll in a Dale Carnegie course. Wow, it just like circles back to all this. I mean, people in MLM are still going to Dale Carnegie. It's still a thing. Interesting to me. Calcode also thought the training program would help Rodenberg deal with distributors who were from the hard school of sales. Rodenberg's attendance at one of America's first large-scale self-improvement programs might hearken to his early practice of making lists of habits for developing a dashing personality. But a monumentous encounter at Dale Carnegie's program and the historical point at which it occurred gave the event greater meaning. Again, Romberg was swept up in a broad cultural and economic movement in America, along with millions of others. But this time, Romberg and Neutralite would soon play a leading role. That's interesting. Historian Richard Huber referred to this cultural shift as an evolution from character to personality. The personality becoming distinctly American, in which Rodenberg was personally adopting by attending a Dale Carnegie program, was that of archetypal salesperson. As Huber wrote, what was once considered a separate occupation was rapidly becoming a way of life. America was becoming a nation of salesmen. Pre-World War II, few people were in sales work. Those who were often endured public scorn and were even despised for their traits of feigned goodwill and devious manipulation. Now, the reviled salesperson's way of being was becoming the norm. This was driven first by the extreme scarcity of the Great Depression and then the overcapacity of the post-World War II consumption-based economy. Sociologist C. Wright Mills observed the growing influence of sales upon American society in the late 1940s and early 50s, tying it to the new economy in which, for the first time, demand had been created. The bargaining manner, the huckstering animus, the memorized theology of PEP, the commercialized evaluation of personal traits, they are all around us in public and in private. There is a tang in the feel of salesmanship. At issue on the personal level, as this cultural shift took effect, were traditional values and concerns of honesty and deceit. Huber's singled out Dale Carnegie as a key national figure who helped rationalize and advance the transition from character to personality. Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, published in the depths of the Depression, 1936, taught a way of survival, not by forming labor unions, supporting social safety nets, or seeking full employment, but by privately reshaping one's own personality to get along and succeed on an individual basis. Other writers wrestled with the moral dilemma of this new type of salesman personality, fearing a cesspool of deceit, in which one could become a success but would be unable to stand the smell of yourself. The resolution of this existential challenge was for persons with the newly adopted sales personalities to truly believe they are sincere even as they engage in calculated manipulation. No, I'm not suggesting flattery, Huber quotes Dale Carnegie. Far from it. I'm talking about a new way of life. The new way of life advocated by Dale Carnegie, Huber wrote, was really a new way of looking at life where people are used for the purpose of profit. The salesman's traits designed for commercial success in crass promotions, financial negotiations, and covert persuasion would be employed in all facets of life, including family and social relations. Like Rosenberg, Dale Carnegie was an aspiring actor, but later found extraordinary success in teaching public speaking. When the public reputation of industry magnate Andrew Carnegie shifted, the widespread hatred for his ruthless strike-breaking and wealth-building to public admiration for giving away hundreds of millions to libraries and other good causes at the end of his life, Dale Carnegie changed his real surname, spelled Carnagey. A and E refer to Dale Carnegie's, and now he spells it Carnegie to be like Andrew Carnegie. Name change, a brilliant, if perhaps somewhat disingenuous business tactic. The new spelling made people associate his classes and books with the storied Carnegie family, to whom he bore no relation. The most famous novelist at the time, Sinclair Lewis, characterized Carnegie's book about winning friends and how to smile and bob and pretend to be interested precisely so that you can screw things out of them, that how to win friends and influence people is not at all about real friendship, can be quickly asserted from the subtitles. Fundamental techniques in handling people, how to win people to your way of thinking, how to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. At the time of Dale Carnegie's death in 1955 at age 67, his publisher, Simon & Schuster, stated that Carnegie's book had already sold 4.8 million copies. Today, more than 30 million have reportedly been sold worldwide. Whether or not Rosenberg gained public speaking skills or learned how to influence people is not reported. However, at Dale Carnegie's program, self-promoted as a new way of life, Rosenberg met a future accomplice for creating their own program to offer a new way to use millions of people for profit. This would also finally make Rosenberg rich, the goal he had sought his entire life. Next up, doublespeak. Doublespeak. Rosenberg's new associate, a radio show psychologist named William S. Castleberry, and his future partner, a veteran of a cemetery plot sales named Lee Mintinger, would soon take over sales and marketing responsibilities from Rosenberg and also facilitate his dream of making history. But it didn't play out quite like Rosenberg envisioned. Under Castleberry's and Mintinger's marketing plan, Rosenberg's Nutrilite company would become forever known as one of the first and the most notable supplement companies to be prosecuted by the U.S. government for deceiving both consumers and salespeople. The case would go down in history, litigated all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, which ruled against Nutrilite. From the training and the association Rosenberg gained at the Dale Carnegie's program on influencing people, his business would develop a culture of deception far exceeding his earlier exaggerations about his products or his background. It would also be based on the exploitation of friendships for profit, the first business ever designed to convert all social and family ties to commercial relations. In 1948, soon after Rosenberg signed an exclusive sales contract with Castleberry and Mintinger, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration raided Nutrilite locations and seized inventory, charging Nutrilite, Castleberry, and Mintinger's distribution company and Carl Rosenberg personally with making false medical claims to sell vitamins and recruit thousands of salespeople. The FDA case described extraordinary and utterly false claims made by Nutrilite in sales literature regarding promised benefits of ingesting Nutrilite vitamins. The Nutrilite distributors had been trained to repeat the falsehoods both to consumers and, more importantly, to all prospective. Hang on a second. Somebody wants to go under the covers. There you go, baby girl. You go under? Okay, now she doesn't want to go under. Now, where am I? I'm down here. Okay, I'm going to start here. The Nutrilite distributors had been trained to repeat the falsehoods both to consumers and, more importantly, to all prospective distributors, vastly multiplying the deception. The claims and statements were documented in the sales booklet, presumably written by the psychologist Castleberry, which the government cited for prosecution, but as part of its legal maneuvering, Mittinger and Castleberry reworded the booklet so that the case eventually opened the doors to today's misleading or meaningless worded promotions by vitamin and supplement makers that promise miraculous health benefits without directly claiming to provide any therapeutic value at all. William W. Goodrich, former general counsel of the FDA, who served in the agency from 1939 to 1971 and was directly involved in the Nutrilite prosecution, described the duplicity used to market Nutrilite's products and its campaign of deception. Referring to the Nutrilite recruiting and sales sessions the FDA had recorded, Goodrich recalled, they were going wild. They were making every kind of claim you could possibly make. We knew that was so, and Mittinger and Castleberry denied it under oath and on their word to God that it wasn't happening, but we knew it was. In the decade before signing on with his new marketing managers, Romberg acknowledged that the value of his concoctions was speculative. Like all makers of vitamins, he did not have to disclose the full contents or prove they would cause no harm. Yet the FDA's charges were not about inherent worthlessness, disclosure of contents, or potential toxicity of the products. Rather, the case focused on how Mittinger and Castleberry were deceptively using the products to enroll distributors and to sell the goods. Biographically, the FDA case shows how far Carl Rodenberg had descended as Mittinger and Castleberry were making him very rich. Repeated in the bright and fact-based light of federal lawsuit, Nutrilite's preposterous lies appeared almost comical. The lies were not hidden or embedded, but put forth with assumed scientific authority in a company booklet circulated to hundreds of thousands with an official-sounding title, How to Get Well and Stay Well, an echo of psychologist Castleberry's own book, How to Use Psychology in Everyday Living. As the case proceeded, the FDA contended that Nutrilite's deception did not decline, but actually escalated from deceiving consumers and would-be salespeople to also deceiving the government. The charge referred to what Nutrilite itself called a new language. In the new language, astounding life-changing claims were made while simultaneously denying them categorically. Mittinger would have been very familiar with and adept with the crafted misuse of language. In the funeral and cemetery sales business, where Mittinger had worked for decades, language manipulation was central to its business model. As Jessica Mitford explained in The American Way of Death, among the invented euphemisms, funeral director for mortician and coffins for caskets, most important for profit purposes was to depict the dead person as if still living and therefore able to observe and judge the family's choices for their repose, including the view from the gravesite. Nutrilite's new language, however, went far beyond euphemisms. It produced a special language, a special vocabulary, and a way of speaking that cover over facts by authoritatively asserting their opposite. It was a precursor to what would evolve in MLM into an Orwellian doublespeak, in which controlled and manipulated contractors became independent business owners. Quota purchasing became selling. Wholesale was designated retail. Distributor morphed into end user, and 99% loss rates were proclaimed the greatest income opportunity in the world. The term doublespeak is associated with George Orwell's famous novel 1984, published in 1949. Isn't it interesting to hear all of this from way back then and how it's still true today with these business opportunities? I find it fascinating. The absurd but audacious lying employed by Nutrilite in its sales booklet is detailed in the government's case. The booklet represented without qualification that Nutrilite is an effective therapeutic agent for low blood pressure, ulcers, menstrual depression, pyorrhea, faulty vision, high blood pressure, and irregular heartbeat. At another point, the booklet implied that cancer, diabetes, and tuberculosis would respond to Nutrilite treatment. Government prosecutors then described how Nutrilite claimed it revised the booklet and corrected deceptions to avoid a criminal proceeding. To convey to the public the false and misleading impression that Nutrilite food supplement will cure every ailment and disease afflicting mankind and yet avoid mentioning any specific disease, names the defendants inaugurated a subterfuge which they called new language. The new language insists that Nutrilite will cure nothing. The patient merely gets well through the use of Nutrilite. The doublespeak that Nutrilite developed around products to escape prosecution would later expand to an all-encompassing proprietary vocabulary covering MLM's pyramid structure, false marketing claims, money transfer pay plan, and would conceal or obscure the roles of recruiters. It would be taught with propaganda techniques involving constant repetition of thought-stopping aphorisms, such as only quitters lose and only losers quit, resulting, as Orwell explained, in the inability for followers to hold contrary thoughts or to formulate questions. It constructs a parallel reality with alternative facts. Some would later call it brainwashing. And that's where I think we will end for today. But, I think it really lays the groundwork, so to speak, for what will be coming up. Because next we will be covering the plan, blueprint of a pyramid scheme, which we will cover next week. And probably do 2 chapters next week, as long as I can hold out, so to speak, and not completely lose my voice. My mouth is getting very dry. And I think I'm getting some texts too. And I need to take the Bubby Wumpkins out. I hope you guys did enjoy that today. Yeah, my husband just did text me. Let me see what he had to say. Oh, he has the sniffles. I'm asking him if I can get him some medicine, knowing the answer will be no, because he doesn't like taking any kind of medicine. Louisiana Swamp says, now vitamin companies have so many promoters online. They don't need to have to promote their vitamins. Others do. And yeah, I mean, and think about all the MLMs that sell these types of, things geared towards health. And you walk into any store, any drugstore, any grocery store, there's all kinds of stuff there for your health. He just said, LOL, no, it's just annoying, as I knew he would not want me to get him anything. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I am going to get down on the go-go. Tomorrow, I might do a retro reaction to one of On Passive's webinars back in 2019. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. Or, if you would like me to keep reading Ponzinomics tomorrow, let me know that too. Drop a comment after this processes, because if you put it in the chat, I'm not going to see it. So just let me know which you would prefer, and I'll see if I can get to that. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day and you do something, fun tonight, whether it's, watching a movie, if it's knitting, whatever it might be. If it is just, hanging out with someone that you care about, then that's great. Just, it doesn't have to be anything, all out there and kinds of fancy and going crazy. Just, I enjoy the simple things. I'm probably just going to, hang out with the Bubby Wumpkins. That's what I do so much of. And I love being with my dogs. I absolutely love being with them. They bring me so much joy. I've always had dogs in my life. All my life, I've always had dogs. I've had some cats too, and I do miss both of them. Well, actually, I've had 3 cats. I miss all of them. I miss all the pets I've ever had. I do miss. And I think with that, I'll just say thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate anyone who is watching the replay. And if you're a mod, thank you for being here. Just, thanks again for just being here and listening to me as we make our way through Ponzinomics. If you're interested in the book, there is a link to it in the video description. And yeah, I will get a very small commission because it is in my Amazon shop. Anyway, have a great one. And don't forget, you're beautiful and I love you. Until next time, bye everyone.